Hey Jen, welcome. Thank you for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
So, Jen, for those that don't already know about you, you're a mum to four boys, a parent educator, a social worker, and an amazing author of Little People, Big Feelings, and amongst many other things. And you've got a podcast too. So, welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
So, Jen, we're going to be talking about mum's wellbeing today because it is Mama Month, May, and I love always paring back to the real nitty gritty or the essence of why we do what we do. And mum's wellbeing is my passion, and I know that you have a passion for emotional literacy and mum's wellbeing too. After reading some of your amazing work, so I'd just like to hear a little bit about the role or the essential role that mum's wellbeing plays in a child's learning and development, and how you see that in today's climate.
Gosh, what a big question. Look, I think the single biggest thing we could do for our children above anything else is look after ourselves. You know, the single biggest thing that's going to impact on a child, we know that the first 5 years is so vital. But more than anything else, like these days, parents are navigating the information overload, the changes to the village, increasing isolation, pressures to get it all perfect. And actually, if there was one piece of advice I would give all parents above any of that, it would be self-compassion, self-kindness, like giving yourself grace as you learn how to be a parent.
Mm.
And then well-being is something that I think we're not really taught enough about, and we don't know how to do it. I mean, I found as a good girl, Catholic girl, I found it really hard. I don't know if it's a Catholic thing, but I found it really hard to ask for help. I found that didn't come naturally. And I was on Channel 9 this morning talking about well-being, and I was saying, to them, like I just struggled so much, even to just sort of say, I want a babysitter once a week, or I want a bit of, it felt like this really hard thing. And then once you can sort of question that and reflect, well, why do we feel like this pressure to sort of do it all? And actually that doesn't make sense. I think we're in a better position. So like long answer, but the single biggest thing we could do for our kids is model self-care, self-love, having fun,
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's amazing. And amongst all that, and I love that you brought in maybe the good girl mentality, the pleasing, the Catholic. Yes, born and raised a Catholic here, but yeah, there's got a lot to be said for the guilt and the. I'll just tell a quick story that I was sitting in the church with my daughter, and she leaned over to me, Mum, and she leaned over and said, "Mum, I thought you said that I was worthy." And she looked up, and this banner was um, hanging from the cathedral roof said, "You are not worthy." And
Oh my gosh.
and that's yeah, that was like my heart. I just got like stabbed in the heart, and I said, "You are," and we'll talk about it later because we're in church. And yeah, so that's another story, another chat for another day. But the guilt factor, I think it's really what you said then. The scheduling time, just feeling like that we didn't deserve it. So the worthiness piece is really key in our work as well. And I think that's what you were saying as well about the compassion and self-care and self-love as well. So I love that.
That
Thanks so
ability.
much, Jen.
One of the things I talk to new mums about, like I say to them, because I know, and also they've just had their first baby, and I say one of the most caring things you can do for yourself is actually do a wee when you need to do a wee,
Yeah.
or don't rush your wees. So how many mums have rushed, like pushed a wee out in a
Mhm.
hurry, get back to a baby, or to, we rush. And I kind of say jokingly in this class with mums and dads, I go, there's sort of no dad that would rush a wee. Like they'll just do their wee, and everybody laughs. And I'm like, I promise you, it's the worst thing you can do for your pelvic floor after you've had a baby, but we all do it because we'll prioritize, sort of that ability to, you can be a really loving mum who just does her wee and then gets
Oh,
back to your baby.
absolutely. I know. If we can do the basics and go slow with the basics and permission to pee in peace or slowly. I mean, that's,
Yep.
let's
Wee.
yeah,
You
absolutely.
deserve it.
Yeah, exactly. And then, you can build from there, right? But
Oh, I
taking a
believe
breath.
it's a muscle, and we start absolutely starting sometimes, allowing yourself to start very, very small, flossing your teeth or taking a breath before picking up your baby. And then you get better and better and better at asking for, I mean, I'm getting so good at it,
Yeah.
but
That's
it's taken a lot of
amazing.
work.
Yeah, absolutely. It does. And I agree with you. And I think that, yes, in the younger days, so my children are 15 and 12, taking a deep breath for a minute or like sitting down for a minute, that was all I got. And that was okay. But I was starting to build that muscle of, scheduling time for myself. I can take a deep breath, permission to breathe. And it did ripple around the house. So, and I know that's what you're saying too, which is, yeah, I love that. I love the analogy, the toilet analogy, because we're all doing that. So let's just do it, do it slowly.
Be
Thank
aware.
you. So, Jen, I'd love to hear some of your personal self-care practices and things that you do when you're running your busy household and business, please.
Look, one of the things that I've done over the years, I think, and I sort of don't know whether it was by the nature of 4 kids or, what came first, but I just stopped doing everything. So things just sort of, we'd run out of milk. And then eventually, like, it's incredible the way my husband now does most of our grocery shopping. And he's the one that's actually aware of the mental load around what's in the fridge. He's
Mm,
the one now doing that. And I'm more across other things. But I think it took for us around gendered roles and things for me to sort of stop to that.
yeah.
So I think sometimes self-care is just not doing it
Mm,
all.
hmm.
Not sort of saying, well, I'll have to do it or no one will do it. It's like, well, maybe that won't happen. Maybe we're just going to drop something. Maybe we're just not getting to swimming today. And I think that can be such good self-care. We're just not going to make it. We're just not going to push everybody crying and kicking in the middle of winter.
Yeah.
So I think there's that, learning how to kind of not get it all perfect all the time. I, bit by bit learned how to put my kids to sleep in the daycare clothes they would wear the next day. Like, just lowering the bar of
Mm,
expectation, I think, is the biggest thing I do. I then found myself sort of, probably after my 4th child, I found myself sort of reading a bit of Brené Brown and about well-being and self-care. And she was talking about fun. And I thought, gosh, I don't remember fun. Like, my kids have fun. But so I actually took up basketball at 40, and I play basketball. I still play once a week. And I also have been learning tennis. And what I've found is that getting out, playing, for me, a team sport is incredibly good for my self-care. I find it probably better for me than a night drinking with friends or, that kind of thing, which can also be fun. But the basketball, the tennis, for my busy brain, having a skill to focus on where it is just not for anyone's benefit, but for mine, I find it very meditative and fun. I laugh so much playing tennis therapy every Friday with my friends. So for me, I think that's one of the biggest things I do.
I love it. I love it. Well, I'm a basketball fan too. So I have been playing. I stopped this year due to scheduling, but I do want to play again. So I understand that joy of basketball as an adult. So yeah, that's amazing. And I think just having that scheduled is key. I think that when you have it, and yes, you might not get there every single time, but if you have it, you're most likely or more likely to get in. So I love that. I love the lowering the bar. Perfect. We don't have to be like, sometimes people think that we're saying well-being means perfect, or to be the best mum you have to do everything and make it to everything. But yes, just sometimes it's taking some things off your list, like you said, saying, okay, today it's not going to work for us and we really just need a down day or a rest or a skip this session. It's not the end of the world. So I love that permission to miss the session. And also you said something in your book, do less, be more. I think that when we do say, you know what, I can't get to the fridge and the milk, someone else will either pick it up when we say
Yeah,
it's not for me, or it's just not what we're adding to our schedule this week. So you've got some amazing practices there. So thank you for sharing.
for sure.
You've also mentioned a little bit about self-kindness, and I know that on page 100 you did talk about self-compassion in your book, and I was like, yes, this is my type of language. And I love that you're connecting self-compassion, self-kindness with emotional literacy and teaching our children and sharing that with our children, because I think they definitely do go hand in hand. um, when times are tough, is there something that you elevate into your world to add another practice, or maybe take something off around self-kindness and self-compassion? So would you like to just share about that?
Biggest thing, I think, that parents can learn, and that I've increasingly learned to learn, is to kind of learn to spot the signs that pressure is building in the body, that we're heading into a state of dysregulation. And that can really help in order to have us maybe not snap or not go into those places that we don't want to go to as parents. So that could be really great, but we're not always going to get there. We're not always going to catch it. And I think then we do feel like we weren't the parent we wanted to be, or not the person we wanted to be in the moment. And then there's this tendency to sit and criticize and to say, if I somehow we got this message, all of us, Catholic or not, along the way, that if we want to get better at something, we're kind of hard on ourselves, or we criticize, or we say, I'm such a terrible parent. You know, in order to go better tomorrow, I need to tell myself off. And all of the evidence around self-compassion says that's more damaging to us than someone walking into the living room and yelling at us. And so once I really learned that through Kristen Neff, I really started to practice catching that negative self-talk and flipping it. And the kind of things I'll say to myself is like, this is really hard. The parenting is really hard. It's not that I'm failing. It's that this is a really tough job. And yep, I yelled, or I wasn't the parent I wanted to be, or this is overwhelming. And I'm doing the best that I can. And that compassion that I can offer myself, I find in the moment then extends straight away. That toddler having the meltdown, or the teen having the meltdown, that we're thinking, I can't stand this. Suddenly that compassion can then extend to them, and you're doing the best that you can. So not only can that allow us to be what our kids need in the moment, it's better for us in so many ways, because it allows us to be the parent we want to be. And then I think the bigger lesson for our kids in that is that they get to experience that they're allowed to make mistakes. And when they do, they get to see modeled an adult who can be kind to themselves. It's the single biggest gift we could give our kids.
Yeah.
And often when I'm working with parents who have a child who is struggling with perfectionism, I often dig into, I go, how do you go in your parenting? And they will describe a situation where they're being very hard on themselves in their parenting specifically. And I'll be like, you know, it's interesting, because if we can just simply model around the thing we feel most strongly about, which is turning out a great kid, self-compassion, self-kindness, often we find that our children's perfectionistic tendencies will settle just through that modeling. So it's such a good thing to do for our kids, but important for us as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And our inner chat becomes their inner chat, because often they'll see us practicing. So that's, yeah, exactly what you're saying. And if we can model that good kindness out loud, they hear us doing it, and in the struggle, they then learn that. Yeah, I love that so much. You mentioned Brene Brown as well, and I'm a big fan of her work as well. She talks about shame and self-compassion, and also Kirsten Neff with uh, self-compassion. And I think that their work is, yeah, just like, if everyone could do a little bit of that, then we would have a different world that we lived in. Shaming ourselves and also our children. I think that what you said, the ripple effect, and that comes from us when we're kind to ourselves, it comes out, ripple effect. Same with shame. When we're shaming ourselves, we tend to disperse it. So if we're focusing on what's going on inside us, like you said, and you've got in your part 1 in your book, you make a real point of talking about focusing on looking after you. And I just really value that and love that. So I highly recommend everyone having a look at Jen's book, Little People, Big Feelings, because honestly, there's not many books I've seen so well written that have combined the two and connected the two. So I really do think it's brilliant. And I know that's why my sisters, who have both got lots of young children, were raving about you and said, you've got to go speak to Jen. She speaks your language, and you absolutely do. So I hope everyone goes and buys a copy of your book, and buys one for their friends too. Yeah, thank you so much for being here and sharing a bit about what you been working on lately, but specifically, what are you working on right now and to come, Jen? We'd love to hear.
Oh, I'm working on a mini course for siblings. So smoother siblings in 7 days. I'm really trying to work on delivering all my content a little bit differently. Parents are busy, and I think there's so much information. Parents don't need more information. So I think I'm trying to tackle the whole what I'm trying to teach is around attachment and well-being and all of that stuff, but I'm trying to tackle it a little bit differently, so it's less overwhelming, so that partners can share in it, and so they can lower the pressure and enjoy their kids more. So I'm really excited about that coming out, and hopefully bringing a little bit more peace to people's homes in terms of sibling dynamics. Yeah, so that's the main thing that I'm working on.
Oh,
Yeah.
that sounds amazing. Well, I can't wait to see that, and I'll be sure to share that once you've released it. And where's the best place for people to connect with you, Jen?
Look, probably my Instagram is my home community. I'm on TikTok as well. So it's at Connected Parenting AU on Insta. I'm also on Facebook. I've got a private group. And I've got my podcast with Amy Gerard, Beyond the Chaos. We've got a Insta page, but we've got a Facebook group that is really starting to grow. And it's a real place of a bit of kind of realness. Like it's
Mm.
yes, questions and how do I get my child to stop having meltdowns? But also a lot of sharing and comedy is happening in there as well. So that's a really nice space to catch me.
Oh, beautiful. I love it when you know you're not alone when you're hearing and seeing other conversations. So that's, yeah, that's amazing that you've got that space for mums and parents. And I appreciate your time today. It's been amazing chatting with you. I just want to acknowledge you for the work that you're doing in the world. It's making a real difference. And I'm so glad that you are, yeah, stepping up and sharing it. So thank you so much, Jen, for today.
Thanks so much for having me.